Hey, welcome to the Actors Side. Today I'm so excited. We're here with Viola Davis, who's like winning every award there is and has, and so happy to have you here, Viola.
Thank you.
And congratulations on everything. You're working all the time. You've got a television series, you've got a big movie out now, and all kinds of good things going on. I wanted to start with Fences, though, because it's such an interesting project for you to do on screen. You played this 2010 on stage, and now you're recreating that role with pretty much the original cast.
Yeah, except for Jovan Adepo and Sanaya Sidney, the two younger characters.
Yeah, that's so interesting to have that opportunity. That's very rare in movies.
It is very rare, but you know what? You need that much time to find a character. I'm sure there's any actor out there who can look at something that they did 10 years ago, even something that they were relatively proud of, and say, oh, I could have done that a little bit differently if I just had a little bit more time, another month, another two, rehearsal, whatever. And that's kind of what it feels like. It felt like, you know, maybe the play was a big rehearsal for the movie.
That's so interesting, really. And how different was it for you to go with the same character, you know, for which you won a Tony, and then suddenly to have to do it in a film? Was there a difference in playing that role?
Well, the difference is, of course, when you're in the theater, you're playing in a theater of 1,200 people. Yeah. And in the movies, you're playing to the person about 5 inches away from you.
Yeah.
And you have the benefit of going into the house.
Yeah.
You know, cooking the food, going up to the bedroom. So that changes it. But then there's a huge part of it that doesn't change.
Yeah, it's so interesting, too. And the camera here is really, like you say, just 5 inches away. It's right on you in those heavy scenes, especially that one big scene that you have in this, and it's so intense. And I love the way that Denzel directed that, to have the camera right on you, focused like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that one of the conventions of film absolutely is to keep it small. Small and understated. I think sometimes you can overdo that.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes you can't work to be small.
Yeah.
You got to play the truth of what the moment is, right? Yeah. And for me, especially with the big Rose speech, the truth of what that moment was it's not understated. No. It's just not. Anyone who writes a 4-page monologue is telling you right away that this is not understated, okay?
Yeah.
It is absolutely much more in the realm of being trauma. Of being that one moment that happens at that point in the narrative. It's about taking away a character's life, taking away someone's purpose and meaning. And then what do you do with that? Yeah. What do you do if someone does something to you like at the spur of the moment and you don't have time to react? You don't have time to think about boogers coming out of your nose. You don't have time to do any of that stuff. You know, I always compare it to my father dying and the hospice nurse putting the stethoscope to his chest and literally looking at my father's now body. There are no words to describe that. It wasn't a slow kind of, you know, immersion into grief. It was just grief that came at the spur of the moment of seeing someone that I love gone.
I saw you talk at an award show, the Critics' Choice, and you talked about, they gave you an award for being a role model and and doing that. And do you look for this kind of thing, to do this, to take this, your art, to a much bigger level here?
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, you always want people to know you. I mean, an actor can't be an actor in their living room. Right. You know, they've got to be, you've got to do it for an audience. I think that people forget that the audience is the last part of the collaboration. That's why you've got to come locked and loaded. And a lot of times, audience people who come to see a movie or a play don't understand that. They feel like it's all on the artist to do the work. Yeah. You come to me. I'm going to sit here with my arms closed. I came expecting not even to like it, but I liked it. I love when people say that. I came expecting not to like it. That's supposed to be good? That's good news?
That's like a lot of critics I know.
Yeah. I love you, critics. Yeah. That's why it's so wonderful, too, for August to be exposed to a wider audience, because They say the universal is in the specific. And there is not one of his stories, you know, even though it chronicles African American life through a century, that we are like you. You know, we are all the same in the sense that we all are driven by need. We all have pain, we have joy. We want the best for our children. We love, we fail. And that's what you get through his narratives, is the understanding that absolutely at the end of the day that we're playing on the same field.
I'm curious, the passion that you have for this, where did it come from? You grew up in Rhode Island, basically, right?
I grew up in Rhode Island, Central Falls, Rhode Island. I moved there in 1965 because my father groomed horses at the racetrack, and two of the biggest racetracks in the country were in Rhode Island, Lincoln Downs and Narragansett. So he groomed horses for 25 years. Yeah.
And how do you get into acting in Rhode Island? How did that happen? You didn't come from a family in the business, as it were, or
no, I didn't. Nobody was in the business.
It had to come from somewhere where you got an opportunity somewhere.
You know, Meryl Streep always says it starts with you performing, you know, with your parents in the living room, and then all of a sudden you get the aha idea that, hey, listen, I could be an actor. But for me, it just started with Miss Tyson. I always say that was the change. That was it.
Really?
That was the moment that I decided this is what I want to do with my life. Absolutely, you know, no conversation about it. That to me, I said, if I could do that with my life, that could make my life. I'd never seen anything like it before. Never. And it's interesting that I saw it in an apartment that we lived in that was condemned, infested with rats, with plaster coming off the walls. But in that apartment, a dream, you know, grew and festered. And listen, here's the interesting thing about acting. My sisters are not actors, but even they were transformed by that performance. Really? It even changed their lives.
Wow. That's so interesting that one thing like that can just like click, you know.
Absolutely.
I certainly don't know what it would be for me, but I'm trying to think. I don't know. The first movie I saw or something, but but then you acted on it, and you went and you worked in school and high school.
Worked in school, every kind of drama festival. I have a professional career of close to 30 years, but I've been doing it for what, 40 something years, really. Acting in church basements, basketball courts, theaters in New York, every theater around the country. I've done it all.
Wow. In terms of the movies, what was your first big break there? How'd you get your SAG?
I got my SAG card, Substance of Fire, directed by Daniel Sullivan, who also directed me on stage. Oh. Sarah Jessica Parker, Timothy Hutton. I had my scene with Timothy Hutton. I played the nurse. I thought I'd made it. One line.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah, and then that's a big deal.
That's a big deal, and my next big break was Out of Sight.
Oh, and you worked with Soderbergh quite a bit. That was quite a relationship of director and actor here.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. I asked him, I said, what was it that made you want to hire me, you know? And he said it was a combination of my stillness and my big hair. I used to do my own hair back in the day, Pete. Yeah. And I used to just braid hair into my head, and I had more hair than Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. I had so much hair, I was like, I need another pack of hair to put in my head. I must have had 4 packages of hair I braided into my head. I had an afro that was bigger than Sly and the Family Stone. So it was a combination of that and my stillness.
Did you ever think, you know, when you were doing all these in church basements and everything that you talk about, that you'd be up there winning Emmys, nominated for Oscars, winning, you know, I mean, having this kind of a career?
I never had my toilet paper roll looking in the mirror, practicing my speech. I never did.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a great actress of the stage. I wanted to be like Colleen Dewhurst, Jane Alexander, Miss Tyson. I used to always know, even when I was watching Alice with Linda Lavin, I always knew that all of them were actors who came from the stage. Beth Holiday and, you know, Diane Ladd and Celia Weston. And I was just always fascinated by that. I always wanted people to throw flowers at me at the end of a performance because they were so moved. They were so transfixed and so moved that they just couldn't help it. You know, they just throw, that was my image. I would have fantasies about that.